Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. It is Wednesday, November 2nd. I'm your host, John June. And this guy to my left is Greg Penniman, a.k.a. G Money. Greg, how you feeling tonight, man?
Doing all right, man. Chilling, Got some NBA mode. No football yet. Gonna look forward to this Thursday night football though. Got a team that's steamrolling in the league right now. Philly's up right now, man. Got the Phillies in the World Series too. Got the Sixers. Shout out to them. They lost tonight, but yeah, and then you got the Eagles who are undefeated. So two of the three sports teams, looking like they might be on championship bound.
I mean, probably a little early to talk about them 76ers.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not a
two of
basketball
them,
person, I'm not really,
two of them.
but I know that my Celtics are gonna do their best to make it out the East and make some noise. So, we'll see what happens. But anyway, enough of that. That's the most basketball I'm gonna talk about on this show, because this is a fantasy football podcast, and we're here to talk about fantasy football. It is week 9, Greg. It's kind of crazy. It's already week 9. Um, so many teams on bye this week. We've got Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, the Giants, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco. So do not put those players in your lineup because they will not score you any fantasy points this week. Um, in terms of today, we are breaking down Thursday Night Football. And sorry, we are recording this at like 9:30 p.m. at night. Your boy myself had to travel, so I am trying to shuffle some things around, including this podcast schedule. So, um, appreciate y'all for tapping in. However, you are listening or watching or consuming, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, or whether you're watching live on Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube. So we do definitely appreciate that. But continuing our Week 9 breakdown, breaking down Thursday Night Football, a game between the Houston Texans and the Philadelphia Eagles. We are going to give out our streams of the week, and we always start with our quarterback position. Greg, who's your quarterback stream of the week this week?
I'm gonna go with Taylor Heineke. He's 9% rostered, sorry, 10% rostered, going against Minnesota. He's this week coming off a really good week last week, had 279 yards, touchdown against Indianapolis. Um, Going against Minnesota, a better matchup, I think, a game that could be potentially a shootout. And I think he's just, going to be safer with the ball, not going to cause as many turnovers. So give this team extra possessions to possibly, not kill your day. And that's kind of what you want. A lot of teams on bye. You want a team quarterback that's going to give you a safe floor. I think Heineke could do that.
Yeah, and he's good for Terry McLaurin, which is nice for Terry McLaurin managers. My quarterback stream of the week, going Marcus Mariota, 31% roster, going up against the Chargers. And look, I know what you might be thinking. This is, Mariota's been up and down, a little hit or miss, but this is multifaceted. First, for the obvious reason, this game is tied for the second highest, total on the week, 49.5 according to FanDuel Sportsbook. And then Mariota, uh, obviously he may have the element of having to try to keep up with the Chargers, who, albeit banged up on offense. Justin Herbert's still that dude, and Austin Eckler is still there as well. So gonna have to keep up with that Chargers offense as they keep try to put up points against an Atlanta defense that is very good. And then the last part of this, which is I think the most interesting part and probably the place where we can most depend on here for Mariota, is that the Chargers are a terrible run defense, and that plays right into Mariota's strengths of him running the football. And so, like we said, Greg, with a bunch of guys on bye this week, Mariota has that type of variance that I think we should try to embrace in a week like this.
Yeah, definitely. I will always getting you that floor with those rushing, and yeah, hopefully, he could be part of the rushing plan for continue to be part of the rushing plan for Atlanta, no matter what the game script is.
For Arthur Smith, we know he loves to run that football, man. Greg, who's your tight end stream of the week this week?
I'm gonna go with Cole Kmet, going against Miami this week. He's 23% rostered. Miami, not a very good defense against the tight end position. Say one of the bottom 10 teams in the league against that position. Cole Kmet, not heavy usage this year, but he did get a touchdown last week, and I think this is could be the pop game for him. Could be probably one of those, you know, seasons. I mean, games where he gets probably his best game of the season so far. So. I think this is going to hit accordingly.
Yeah, I like that. Cole Kmet was somebody I liked coming into the year. Has done absolutely nothing up
Yeah,
until like last week, but yeah, I think this is a solid stream for sure. Uh, Again, weird week. I'm going with the weird stream here for my tight ends, and did say plural. Um, Noah Fant and or Will Disley going up against Arizona. Um, 10% roster for Noah Fant, 12% roster for Will Disley. Noah Fant is my preference here, but he's currently questionable with a hamstring. Arizona allows the most PPR points to the tight end position over the last 3 weeks, and that includes a game in which they played Seattle, and Noah Fant went 6 for 45 on 7 targets. That was his best game over that 3 week span. And so if he can't go, like I said, he's my preference. If he can't go, I do like Will Disley. And Greg, can you believe that game with Seattle and Arizona was 3 weeks ago?
yeah, it was felt like a long time ago with that score. Hopefully, it could be,
19-9. I felt
yeah,
like it was like 2 weeks ago, but I guess, you know, yeah, I don't know. Arizona played on like Thursday Night Football, so maybe like right after that game. So like maybe that's why it seems so close in my mind. But
yeah.
uh Greg, what are you thinking in terms of your defensive stream of the week this week?
I'm going with those Los Angeles Chargers going against the Atlanta Falcons. They're 29% rostered, 28% rostered. So, just looking at the fact that they can get some sacks, they can possibly create some turnovers in a high scoring game. That doesn't, that also could take into effect a defensive touchdown possibly. But yeah, it's going to be a back and forth game. Um, Mariota can still get with his work, and definitely all these other playmakers and stuff. They haven't been such an explosive offense, so I think they can the Chargers could create some trouble.
Yeah, Atlanta's definitely been an offense that we've picked on, throughout the year. Picked on we, I say we as a fantasy community, but um, yeah, I definitely like that one. I'm going with another under the radar one. Going with Carolina, who's 5% roster, going up against Cincinnati. And Carolina's a pretty good defense. I know Greg, you and I were talking off air, but they are ranked as the 13th ranked fantasy defense. Right? This is the same Carolina Panthers, which we've all, crapped on for being one of the worst teams in the league. One that we pick up and start defenses against. But this defense, this whole time, has been ranked 13th on the season. And the spread isn't as bad as you would think, 7.5 points. But when you really look a little bit deeper, that's in a game where they're on the road, right? So Cincinnati is already getting 3 points for being at home, so it's really kind of like 4.5. So um, I'm projecting Carolina this week to have the fifth most sacks on the weekend, and Joe Burrow does take a lot of sacks. Pressure leads to a lot of other things. He doesn't have Jamar Chase to spread the field as much as well. So don't think that I think Joe Burrow still has a Joe Burrow like game potentially, but I do like Carolina's chances to wreak some havoc here and score some fantasy points for us.
Yeah, not having Jamar Chase, definitely helps when he's on the field because you could just literally snap that ball, take it through strap up, and just throw it up. So it's easy, not as easy to take sacks that way.
Yeah, or just even throwing a quick screen because he's got so much space and he's a bulldog after the catch. Um, yeah, they definitely missed Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow specifically.
Yeah.
Um, let's move on. Let's talk about Thursday night football, man. We got the 7-0 Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Houston to take on the 1-5-1 Houston Texans. This game has a 44.5 point total, where the Philadelphia Eagles are 13.5 point road favorites here. In terms of weather, we're okay. In terms of injuries for Houston, wide receiver Nico Collins, he's out with a groin injury. Defensive tackle Malik Collins, he's out with the chest. Guard Justin McCray out. Linebacker Neville Hewitt also out. Safety Graylin Arnold also out. Wide receiver Brandon Cooks, who amid some trade rumors tweeted, the Denny Carter perfect tweet, which talks about positions that tweet certain things, and quarterbacks are always like, I love God. Thank you, God. I love my teammates. Running backs are like something about working out,
Stay
and
grinding. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stay grinding. Wide receivers or tight ends are derp, and wide receivers, the enemy holds a
Yeah.
knife or
Cryptic,
something.
dark, like tweets, man. Every time, man.
That
Every time.
you just gotta read. You gotta read between the lines, try to figure out. You gotta decipher
Crazy,
like
man.
what is he saying, and that tweet
So
never
abstract.
fails. It lives rent free in my head. If you haven't seen it, you have to go check out Denny Carter's Twitter, and you just Google it. It's rolling around on Twitter somewhere because it always comes up when tweets like this come up. But anyway, Brandon Cooks, who was his name came up amid trade rumors, tweeted something out and was held out of practice. Uh, it is on the injury report with a wrist injury, so I mean, I'm assuming he's going to play. I don't have any other reason to assume he's not going to play. He's on the team. Like, he can't play for somebody else, and so thinking they get this sorted out. But anyway, Greg, where are you leaning with this game here on Thursday night?
I'm gonna take the over. I think I'm gonna take Philly to cover and Philly to win. Um, yeah, on Houston side, I honestly, unless Nico Collins or Brandon Cooks, that's the only. Oh, sorry, Damian Pierce as well. First of all, Damian Pierce, I think I can make an argument for
Yeah,
him to always play.
Nico Collins
Um,
is out though.
yeah, so Damian Pierce, even if against a good D line, I think I'm gonna put him in RB2, high end RB2 category. And then Brandon Cooks, if he's able to play, he's more of a wide receiver four for me. Secondary is really solid. I'm sure he'll see a lot of Darius Slay. He'll see a lot of the secondary, and just in general, Philly's just as a whole good defense. So wide receiver three, wide receiver four, but that's about it. On Philly side, on the Eagles side, you already know Jalen Hurts, QB1. Miles Sanders should have a smash spot here. I think against Houston, his rush defense is pretty trash. Defense as a whole, but I think the rush defense is where their weaknesses of the two. Um, so Miles Sanders should have an excellent game in this spot. And then receivers, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goddard, those pass catchers seem like they AJ Brown and maybe Devontae Smith taking his turn, my turn. So I think Devontae Smith has his day here. The attention is probably on going to be on AJ Brown. Houston doesn't want to get someone to score multiple touchdowns on them again. So Devontae Smith should pop in this game as well. And Dallas got it tied in one. So I'm liking Eagles as always. Yeah, they're a good team.
Yeah, I lean under here. I take the Philadelphia Eagles to cover, Philadelphia Eagles to win the game. On the Houston side, I think Damian Pierce still has upside. Honestly, it really just comes down to the volume, which I think he should get. Has 89% of the team rush attempts over the last 3 weeks, but he's also got, and this is what we said he needed. He's got 16% of the team targets, and no Nico Collins. There's not a tight end that you could write home about on this roster right now. Um, Brandon Cooks banged up, like in a game like this in Philadelphia. They've running backs have had decent success against Philadelphia these last few weeks. Philadelphia gives up the 12th most PPR points to the running back position over the last 3 weeks. And when you go look at the box scores, they're giving up. They gave up 50 yards rushing to Jalen Warren on limited work. Um, Ezekiel Elliott got to 80 yards rushing on just 13 carries. Tony Pollard, obviously, he's explosive and had his explosive plays in that game as well. Um, and I forget what the previous Arizona, they gave up about 55 yards rushing on 9 attempts to James Conner. So Damian Pierce is going to get volume. He should get work. He should see targets with the 16% target share over these last 3 weeks, like I said. So I really like his upside here. But he's the only person I'm really excited to play. I mean, Cooks is probably a wide receiver three at best if he can go. But I think there's guys that you probably could look to in other games that may not have the floor that Cooks has, but have probably more upside than Cooks has in a game like this. On the Philadelphia side, Jalen Hurts, he's a QB1 despite what looks like a tough matchup. I mean, Houston's allows the 30th most fantasy points to the quarterback position over the last 3 weeks, but they're not a great run defense, and Jalen Hurts is gonna gonna be involved in running the football. The two rush attempts he had last week, I think that's going to be the like by far the lowest he has all year. AJ Brown, he's a wide receiver one. I do agree with what you're saying. Him and Devontae, they could tend to flip flop, and you're going to see that right with guys that have target shares this high. They're you're getting over 55% of the team targets, almost 60% of the team targets between two players. So that's going to fluctuate. I think week to week. Um, you know, so Devontae Smith, he's wide receiver two with wide receiver one upside. Dallas Goddard, he is a tight end one. I think has um, has top three upside this week. Mark Andrews is banged up. George Kittle's on bye. So it's just him and Travis Kelsey. Really, Darren Waller's been banged up all year. So he's really got top two upside, I think, this week. Miles Sanders in a fantastic spot. If the game stays close and he gets enough work, he could have an RB1 type day. But if this game gets up to a blowout early, they'll be rolling in Boston Scott and Kenneth
Yeah,
Gainwell, and
yeah,
it's not going to really help anybody.
yeah. No, for sure.
Greg, you got a bold prediction for the people, or I should just call it what it is and just ask if you have a prop to make some people some money.
I do like Devontae Smith's receiving yard total over it's 50 and a half. He has done that, 3 times this year so far. But yeah, I think this is a game where he gets that.
Yeah, I like that one. I know that was one that I definitely thought about as well. For me, I'm gonna go with Dallas Goddard. His prop is, I believe, 49 and a half receiving
Hmm.
yards is the actual prop, but I'm gonna juice that up a little bit. We're gonna go with Dallas Goddard, 60 plus receiving yards. That is plus 164 over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So nice plus money odds there. Um, he he's gotten over 60 yards in 5 of 7 games he's played. So
That's money. That's
yeah,
money
so
right there.
I do like this a lot here. So that will be my bold prediction. But Greg, before we wrap, there was quite a bit of news that happened over the trade deadline, which is typically generally pretty quiet.
Hmm.
But this year we had a decent amount of activity. Um, I think the biggest trade that happened um, from a fantasy perspective was probably the TJ Hawkinson trade. That was the first trade that happened. TJ Hawkinson ends up going to Minnesota, and forgive me because I don't really have all the compensation in front of me, but I believe Minnesota sent over a second round pick along with a fourth round pick in the following year's draft, while Detroit sent over TJ Hawkinson and I believe it was a fifth round pick, or maybe I might have the fourth and the fifth round pick flipped in terms of which team gave up which pick. But essentially, Minnesota acquires TJ Hawkinson at tight end from a division rival because Irv Smith Jr., when he's not underwhelming, is injured. So, on IR, going to miss, I think they said 6 to 8 weeks. So Hawkinson slides in here to pretty much every down role in a team that was already shoveling 11% of the targets to that position, which I think Hawkins probably coming into this in Minnesota has a much better situation than I think he's ever had in Detroit because he's going to have a situation here where they're going to utilize him because this offense utilizes the tight end, and it's not going to be, well, one week he had 12 targets, but the following week he had just 2 targets. Um, Greg, what are your thoughts here on this move, and do you think that this is an if you're a hockey, I mean, you are the Hawkinson manager, you know, like I don't know anybody with more Hawkinson stock than you. So how did you feel when you saw that trade go through?
Yeah, I'm definitely liking it. I think he'll be in better situations, especially around the in the red zone area where Kirk Cousins is gonna give him opportunity to get touchdowns. He should get just more opportunity throughout the game, more consistent opportunity, like you were saying. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited, especially he's got weapons around him too. So attention won't be put on him. Yeah, I think it should be good. Uh, a team that likes to pass the ball, they do like to run the ball, but Hawkinson will definitely be used a lot. I think they really wanted to always get Irv Smith going and make him a tight end one, but TJ Hawkinson should stay at that level and consistently.
Yeah, I think this is definitely interesting, and I love the fit from an offensive perspective. Like you said, they like to throw the football. They also like to run the football a lot too. And Hawkinson, being a tight end, he was widely regarded as a two-way tight end coming out of Iowa. So I think this is a perfect fit for Minnesota in my opinion in terms of the space that it's gonna the space that's going to be open for Hawkinson, but the space that it also opens up for guys like a Justin Jefferson, right? Like, you won't be able to, linebackers and safeties are going to have to pay attention to Hawkinson because we know the matchup threat that he is when he gets one-on-one opportunities.
Yeah, he's got the long hair too. Looks like an actual Viking. Like
Yeah,
it's all works out.
definitely. Um, let's talk about another pass catcher that's on the move, and that's Chase Claypool. Ends up going from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Chicago Bears for a second round pick. Uh, Greg, what were your initial thoughts on this trade when it happened?
So yeah, I mean Claypool was probably a guy on people's benches, on people's waivers, coming into this trade. After this trade, I don't see myself, jumping for him. I think this might help Justin Fields a little more. He has a maybe possible downfield threat. But I think I have to see it, wait and see mode for him. I think he could be a stash, possibly. I think right now. After this move. Clearly, the Bears want to throw the ball more and be more versatile. So I think best case scenario for him could be entering that wide receiver three category.
Yeah, I think I definitely like this move for everybody involved. Claypool is going from being like the third or maybe fourth target even on his team to now potentially being the second passing
Hmm.
option. Granted, it's going to an offense that doesn't really throw the football, but I think that there's going to be some, maybe more downfield opportunities for Claypool than he's had. There was talks that Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator who came from Green Bay, envisions Claypool being somewhat of like an Allen Lazard type, where he can play on the outside, but also they move him on the inside and use him as a blocker in the run game and things like that. And we've seen, how creative Pittsburgh has been with Claypool in the past. So I think there's an opportunity here for Chicago to do some of those things with him. So I think from a dynasty perspective, I'm I feel pretty good about this. It's tough because the offense is like so run centric that like is it really that like are those opportunities going to be there on a week to week basis? But I think that there's going to be some bigger plays, and I think that he really was the third best receiver on that team, right? And when you look at Deontay Johnson, you look at even a rookie in George Pickens. To now, you could argue like he's battling with Darnell Mooney for the wide receiver one spot. So I think that this is a pretty good um, boost for Claypool. But I also think, like you said, this is a boost for Fields, right? Like I think this gives him another weapon. Um, and if you picked up Fields and planning to start him through this stretch where he gets, Miami, Atlanta, Detroit, you should feel good about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely helps Fields more than it helps Claypool himself. I think
Hmm.
Claypool helps the football team more, so they can get more drives going downfield. It could help the team as a whole for sure. So I'm excited for them.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then just briefly touch on it because it doesn't impact anything that happened this year. Just a move that I thought was interesting was the Jacksonville Jaguars trade for suspended wide receiver Calvin Ridley. And the conditions on this are pretty interesting because it's basically just a different series of conditions where they sent two picks over, but one of them is a conditional fifth that can go all the way to a second round pick if basically Calvin Ridley signs an extension with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So um, definitely interesting. Again, not a move that helps the Jacksonville Jaguars in any way this year, as Calvin Ridley is suspended indefinitely, but can apply for reinstatement in 2023. So if he can come back in 2023, you're looking at a receiving corps that has, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and now Calvin Ridley potentially. That's got to be good news for Trevor Lawrence dynasty managers.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence dynasty managers, Calvin Ridley dynasty managers. So yeah, it should be good. Hopefully, when they're all healthy, we can kind of get a clear pecking order for them and more consistency. Maybe Calvin Ridley, can get back to all that wide receiver one level that he was doing in Atlanta.
Yeah, that would be definitely nice. And then this trade that was the biggest trade I think of the day in terms of the compensation that it yielded and what it kind of means in the AFC is the Miami Dolphins acquiring edge pass rusher Bradley Chubb from the Denver Broncos. Um, this is interesting on a couple fronts because the Miami Dolphins are essentially trying to build a super team. They're trying to make a run, you know, right now. And so they go out, they get a pass rusher and Bradley Chubb. Um, the Denver Broncos, who go out and make the move for Russell Wilson, you would think would want to keep a player like Bradley Chubb because they're in win now mode, but they're selling him, which and there was talks that they were willing, Judy was available as well, amongst along with some other players. So seems like Denver kind of sees the writing on the wall in terms of their season. Um, having been to this point, let's call it what it is. It's been a failure. You go out, you acquire Russell Wilson, you make that trade. Um, you bring in Nathaniel Hackett. Like the expectations were AFC Championship game, Super Bowl. Like those are the expectations. So, but this move is good for Miami. It's great for Miami. Get Bradley Chubb there. I know, Greg, you have Bradley Chubb in our dynasty league, so you kind of were feeling all of this action that was that was going
Yeah,
on yesterday.
yeah, for sure. Bradley Chubb, TJ Hawkinson, got a little Jeff Wilson. Thought his career was his, well, not career, but like his season was over once they got McCaffrey. But he's gonna get another opportunity in Miami. So yeah, it was nice. Hopefully, the Zach Moss one is cool, interesting too. Maybe James Cook can maybe kind of get some impact from that too.
Yeah, just I guess circling back, Chase Edmonds goes from Miami to Denver as part
Yep.
of the Bradley Chubb deal. So now we've got a whole backfield mess in Denver because
Yeah.
they said Edmonds will be the three down back. Um, Melvin Gordon and Latavius Murray will continue to be co-starters. It's just a backfield that I want nothing to do with.
Nah.
Um, Jeff Wilson Jr. then goes from San Francisco to Miami because Miami had a need at running back now with Raheem Mostert really basically being the lead back there.
It's
So they,
2019 49ers again.
yeah,
2020.
and all they need is Matt Breida, and we got
Word.
the whole gang
Facts.
back. Tevin Coleman, he's out there, right? So
Yep. Yep.
Um, but Mike McDaniel, the head coach for the Miami Dolphins, who was the run game coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, calls his old friends over in San Francisco and is like, hey, I need a running back. Let's get Jeff Wilson in here. So, like you said, you thought Jeff Wilson's season was done. I thanked him for his services a couple weeks ago. And looks like he's back, man. He's the new Frank Gore. My man will not die.
Word.
You can't kill him. So,
Yo.
uh, Jeff Wilson going to Miami. He's somebody that I would scoop up instantly because Raheem Mostert, we know his injury history. Um, it's around the corner somewhere. So Jeff Wilson Jr., somebody you should definitely add. And then staying with the running backs, Naheem Hines, the longtime Indianapolis Colt, gets moved to Buffalo in exchange for a draft pick and running back Zach Moss. Um, so you said James Cook. Hopefully, he can get some work. I actually think the Hines acquisition caps that a little bit because I wanted James Cook, and we saw it on Sunday night when he made that huge play in the pass game. Like the path to playing time was getting work as a receiver with catching passes from Josh Allen. Now the Bills go out and they trade for Naheem Hines. Like that's his specialty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh yeah, I think the what this does mean though is that if Devin Singletary does suffer some kind of injury, God forbid, that James Cook, like Naheem Hines, isn't going to be the new first and second down back, and there's no Zach Moss to take that opportunity. So James Cook's going to get some work.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah. Definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Um, and I think that's pretty much it from all the fantasy relevant trades that occurred. So
Yeah.
you get a 33-minute pod here. Um, so definitely appreciate y'all for tapping in and vibing with us. All we're gonna And then make sure you come in on Saturday to check out the breakdown of the remaining slate of games as well as starts of the week. I'm gonna go to sleep now, so everybody, have a good one. Enjoy your Wednesday, Thursday, whenever you're listening to this, and make sure you put those bets in. I'm talking to you, Greg, because we know you be forgetting.
Word.
Greg, anything else you want to say to the people before we close this out?
No, man. Hopefully everyone get those lineups ready and get ready for week 9. We're getting close to that playoff time, man. It's getting close.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all. Have a good one, everybody. And we are out of here. Peace.
Yeah.